Hello and welcome. Today I wanted to show a little bit what it's like when you are digital gardening, but you are just doing it for one specific thing. In my case, I just use digital gardening slash tracking just for tracking the media I consume. I'm also going to show a little bit how my transition has been from using Google Sheets over to capacities. Now, the reason I have even found capacities is because of NIMS Tech slash NIMS Archive. I highly suggest you check out their channel. They're 100% the reason I have even moved over, and let's get on with it. So I have been using a Google Sheet to track my media for several years at this point. I actually just remade my sheet into this one not that long ago, so it's a little bit crazy that I'm moving it over again. I do really enjoy the Google Sheet experience, mostly because of the charts. If you see, I use charts a lot in my tracking. It's one of the reasons I track so much information is to have charts. And that is not something I currently have in capacities because I'm using capacities on the free tier, and at the free tier you do not have access to formulas and tables, and you don't have access to queries, which would kind of take the place of charts. So I found a couple of manual workarounds for some of this to still kind of access my information. Now I will say, yes, I have a lot of charts, but I don't look at this that often. I probably look at country the most and format for TV and books, and that's really it. Everything else is kind of just there because I wanted it there. I will say I do like the maps as well, filling up as I read or watch something from a country. So I may try and figure out something to do with that, or I might still just have a Google Sheet for that just to have this, but I digress. So I have a lot of sheets in here. I track a lot of different things because with Google Sheets, one of the things in order to make these charts or to do complex queries, everything has to be in its own column. So in my TV sheet, I have a lot of columns because cast has to be separated in 8 separate columns in order to track it correctly. Same thing, I track tropes. I have to track tropes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate columns so everything can turn up correctly. So it's a lot of extraness needed, which is I don't need when I'm in capacities. So same thing for books. I do have genre and subgenre I have to have separated. You can do a multiple drop down in Google Sheets, but the problem with that is as soon as you make that multiple drop down, or multiple selection drop down, I should say, it considers that its own thing. It won't consider it if I had college and healing in one column, it would keep that different than college and hidden identity. And only college and hidden identity would be counted together. It's not going to count college as one and then healing as one. So that's one of the reasons why I've kept everything separate. I've also tried to do a couple different things. I like having shelves like this that lets me see everything for that year. And I can switch depending on the year and it automatically loads it. Things like that. I do track my fan fiction that is new. Same thing with the word count I read per day. I don't know if I'm going to continue doing that. And same thing, if I track a TV show has a series, this is all manual queries that I've done. And that's something I've kind of eliminated moving to capacities. So I'm going to switch over to capacities now to show you kind of how I implemented this in capacities. So I will say to start, before I tried capacities, I did try Obsidian. I have used Obsidian very casually. I like the concept of it being a markdown note-taking thing, but Obsidian is very much, you have to create it how you want it. And that was way too overwhelming for me in the sense I just wanted something to have it input it exactly how I want. The other problem that I did not like about Obsidian for doing what I do, which is just tracking my media, is I would have had 500 TV shows running down the side column, and that was so much to me. And it seemed so counterproductive of what I was trying to prevent, which was basically a lag. At some point, Google Sheets, they do say it only starts lagging after 10,000 rows. But I'm already at 500 and it is slow. It's hard to find things. It's not super great for doing that. Now, with capacities, I will say I have nothing personal in here. I don't journal like that personally. I have a planner I use where I do any of that. So the only personal stuff I have in here is like if I write a review for something or like little notes for myself that I write in my daily note to remember what I did that day. Like that is the extent of like my personal things in here. This is truly just for tracking my media. Nim actually said this in one of their videos that part of the fun in like watching something is also then data logging it, and that's very true for me too, as well. I love tracking information about the media I watch. So I do have it just open to my daily note. I haven't done my daily note yet today because I figured I would show you what I do. And then I have basically configured two pins. So the first pin is my dashboard, which is kind of like a duplicate to my Google Sheet dashboard. One of the ways I've gotten around of seeing how many things I've watched per year is now I have collections. And when you have it in this link view, you can see the number for that year, which is my way around that chart. I have not put everything in yet, so that's why it's not fully done yet. I did the same thing for books. And then I just have quick views for things I might need quickly, such as watching it on hold, and what I'm currently reading in my Google Sheet. These were actually both queries that I had pulled up that would obviously be impacted by when I change status, so things like that. And then something like this, I have recreated like my shelves page where I have 2026 completed for my books as well as my books, my TV, and then 2026 finished for my books as well. I don't know how I'm going to change this manually. I might just update the collection manually every time on this page. Not positive yet. Don't know. This will eventually go away. This was just to help me track everything I wanted to bring over to capacities. So I basically just went through sheet by sheet. This was like, for example, my stats page, what stats I wanted, how I figured out I could do it, same thing like that. I created some things or notes, like I created a month object for this, things like that. And then these things I don't have checked off yet because I'm not done. Once I finish completely adding everything, I will check them off and then this page will stay, but I won't have it pinned anymore. So how I use the daily note, I will start here. As you can see, there's a date reference here because I do have a month object. And what I basically do is this. So when I create the daily note, I just mark down what I have done for the day. So far I have finished an audiobook. And I've watched some TV. And that is really what I track. Sometimes I do add little notes like when I was really going through and fixing everything, I made a little log. So I reworked something, so I just noted when I reworked and when I had ideas for that, and I put that in my daily note as well because it has to do with capacities. So that's why I put it there. So now I'm going to actually show you what my objects look like. So as you can see, just on the sidebar, I do have my objects sorted by what goes where. So in media, that has everything to do with TV, film, and specials. Books and fic have to do with books and fan fiction, and my catch-all is kind of everything else. You will see that I have some things in multiple places. I have series in both, for example, and I have creators in both here. That's because they are multi-use. And I wanted them in both places, so like if I closed this, because I was just working in catch-all, these are all the things I could potentially use. So we'll start with my media object. So how I essentially created what I wanted is I just looked at my column names in my Google Sheet and created properties for that. So I have a poster, status, other title, format, so on and so forth. Now, I'm using labels now in place of some of my drop downs, and that is helping me have multiple things in one thing, and in their capacities group view, it counts this as each individual thing, which is what I prefer. So I do director, writer, cast, and when I do not want to create a person object because I may not be watching more content from this person, I have them in notable people instead, and that is to lessen the load of my media people object, which I will talk about in a second. So I do the release year, I have the locations. How I do location is the first location is always what country that show was made in. So this is obviously a Thai production, so I have Thailand first. But for example, this is a Chinese television show, and it was partially filmed in Finland as well. So I have China first because this was a Chinese production, but it also has Finland as the location, as its second location, because it's where partially the show was set. Like, I think almost 15 episodes were set in Finland, so that is important enough to have. I then track the airing season. How that works is every 3 months is a new airing season. So winter is January through March, spring is April through June, and so on. I still track my tropes the same way. Total episodes, duration. Right now, time watched is actually coming from my Google Sheet directly, so I haven't done any calculations with that. The date I completed it, the year I finished it, and months watched is coming in place later for my monthly review. I'm not going to go back and put in the months I watched it for older dramas because I don't really know. And then I have a rating. I do not rate things with stars. I use emojis. So this, for me, means like the equivalent of 5-star, basically. But most of the time, not a lot of my shows fall under this. And then I do have a series and season property for a television series, which I can show. So this is a variety show that has multiple seasons. So when I have that, I have the series object with the season underneath, and that's how I track it. One of the main reasons I wanted to switch to capacities is because I love the linking. I love that I can click on a person and I can pull up all this information. That is the main reason I wanted to do it. I'll show you with someone that has a lot of links, for example. So I click here, he has a picture, I'm potentially been playing around a little bit with my media people, what I actually want to fill out, and then I can see everything I've watched him be in. He is also an OST singer. I haven't figured out how I want to do that yet, like how I want to notate what he has sung for. I may just leave that as text. My media people object really needs the most work, but I can show it. So I currently have 712 people in here, which is a lot, and I'm not even done with 2023. So it's probably going to be over potentially 2,000 people, and once I get fully done, I'm actually going to go back and do a little bit of an audit and remove people, which sounds harsh, but I'm going to move some people who maybe I've only seen once in one-off drama in 2020. I will kind of delete their object and move their name to notable people instead. I do have some collections up here to help sort this so I don't have to load 712 people each time. So I have that split into directors, writers, and then where they primarily work. So this has nothing to do with ethnicity. This has to do with where they primarily film. For example, there are some Thai actors that also film in China, so they would have both Thailand and China collections, for example. And as you saw, it just is very simple, a picture, a category, and what they've been in. I do have this sorted by backlink object, so like the top people are the people that theoretically have been linked the most and I have watched the most. Building off that, I do have a groups object. This is so I can track people that are also in music groups, essentially. I'm actually also going to be using this for pairings, in the sense of if you watch Thai BLs, oftentimes there are like partnerships basically where people are continuously put together in things, and I'm doing that to also help me track like variety media I may watch or interviews I may watch instead of having to create a catch-all object that I watch this one-off YouTube video. I can just put the link in their pairing object instead. So an example of this is I'll use Gugodon. It's a disbanded K-pop group, but 2 of their members have become actresses. So now I can see this is a two-way object, so if I click on either of them, this is also on their page, and this is hidden as a property if it's not filled in, so it only comes into play when I know that person is an actor and a singer, and so on. Then I have my series object. This holds book, TV show, and fanfiction series. So I don't have a lot of my backlog done, so which is why there's not a lot of book series, but I can show you really with my TV show where I'm putting in the work. So, for example, something simple is, this is, again, a Chinese variety show with a lot of seasons. I've seen almost every season. So instead of relying on the backlinks down here, I am going to keep track just right here with the link of what season is what, and then I have a type and a status. I'm in progress because the new season just started, and I'm going to be watching the first episode very soon. Now, some more complicated things are those of you that watch Super Sentai and Kamen Rider. It can be very overwhelming keeping track of what's what, because if you are unfamiliar, Super Sentai and Kamen Rider are like series inside a series. So, like for example, Kamen Rider Saber has offshoots. They have movies and other specials and things like that. So what I'm doing is very similar. I have a list from a Google Sheet, and if I watch something for that Kamen Rider, I'm going to link it in that box. So this is actually not very filled out because don't have everything in. But for example, I've watched several Saber specials, so I will just hit enter and continue. Not enter. I will hit at and continue linking them, and that way I'll have it all together. And I'm doing the same thing with Sentai. Oops. You can see right now it's first two of these. I haven't even watched the series. I've only watched the movies because of the link backs. So I'm just having them linked right there and not relying on the backlinks, for example. And the last one I have like that is Asadora's, where I have linked all my Asadoras with the time and whether or not I've watched it. And because those are massive series, and it's just helping me keep it organized better. And this is just an innate table that I had created. So for books, I'm doing a very similar thing. My collections are currently reading fiction and nonfiction because I do read mostly nonfiction. Same thing, super simple. I'm just keeping track of things I already had in my spreadsheet, except now I have room to put the summary, which is very exciting. And my backlinks for books, for example, these are the day I read these books. I'm also keeping track of some other things, like I read this as an arc and I got it from NetGalley. I probably will add another property that's like wrote the review, things like that. And same thing for the setting. This was about the history of nightlife, and it was primarily in the USA, England, and Germany, which is why I used those countries. I'm tracking the release year, when I started, when I finished, the year finished, and the months I read, because again, this comes in to play with a couple other things. Speaking of which, I just finished it today. So I can put today, and I can put this. And now this is another thing that is completed. So that's how I'm basically going in and editing things like that. So for creators, this is where I have primarily my authors. There are some other things stuck in there, like I think Critical Role Productions, for example, which I do not have a category for. I'll put out YouTuber for now, but this is because it's linked to Critical Role Campaign 4, which is what I'm watching. Obviously, these don't really come into play because this is a production studio. I may also use this for like gaming studios, haven't decided yet, but similar to that. That's basically what I'm using creators for. So for fanfiction, I'm showing a safe for work fanfiction. Do not worry, everyone. This is also based off things I have tracking in my spreadsheet. I'm really not sure what I'm going to do with fanfiction yet because, again, I have like over 5,000 fics in my spreadsheet. I do not want to move 5,000 objects into capacities. So I may only be doing from like when I started reading Heated Rivalry fanfiction and forward, because that will be only like 1,000, which sounds absolutely terrible. So I don't know what I'm doing. But this, so you can see one, this is an in progress fic. So I don't have all the information yet, but same thing, world setting. I am keeping some stuff separate just for the sake of it. This is part of a fanfiction series, so I have the series year and its series number, and then I have the summary, and then here, this is where I keep track if I've read this fic. So this is obviously an ongoing fanfiction. So I did. This is the day I started tracking it in my Google spreadsheet, and then these are the days that the chapters have updated, or I've noticed the chapters have updated, and I've been able to read more. So that way, if I click on one of these dates, for example, this is going to be really open, empty, I can see that I read this fic on that day, and I know I probably need to include word count for that day, and so on. I use fandoms in a similar way. This is for my fanfiction fandoms. And then pairings, same thing. This is for my fanfiction pairing. Wow, could not find the word. And then same thing, the series goes in the series. So catch all this is basically where I'm putting everything else. So I have my collections of YouTube, Critical Role, High Saturday, James and Jimmy, and games. Hi Saturday is a Chinese variety show. James and Jimmy, these are podcasters, so they do Small Town Murder, Crime and Sports. They're the main podcast I listen to, so I figured I would put them in that. YouTube is just for generic YouTube videos that I want to save because I think they are important. And the reason I've made a gaming and a critical role object is I treat these like media. I watch critical role episodes like television media, so I like to have them marked. And you can see I've watched a bunch of episodes. Same thing with Wuthering Waves. Whenever I play it, I mark down what I've done and what I've done so far in the quest, so do not forget. So now I'm going to talk about my month's object. So I'm treating my month's object essentially like my monthly stats sheet in my Google Sheet. So it's going to be a tiny bit manual. What I mean by that is two of these objects, media watched and books read, are both two-way and catch-all watch, three. These are both two-way linked objects. What that means is if I put in media watch that I watched it in July of 2026, it shows up here automatically. So the only thing I have to manually edit are these four up top, essentially. So media finished, episodes watched, books finished, and pages read. Pages read will be simple because at the end of the month, Storygraph basically does that for you. So I'll just go in on August 1st and I will enter that. Episodes watched, that's very manual. I don't know how I'm going to do that yet. I think it's just going to be me going through my daily note. And then the next most manual thing, obviously, is adding that I finished, last day of the month of God, and then I finished. But again, I keep pretty good track of what I finished. I do write that down in my daily note, and I often write that down in my planner physically as well. So I have a pretty good tracking of that. Same thing, catch all watch, listen to. I don't know if I'm going to do episodes or not. I haven't decided. But this is a template. It copies across every month. I will go back and outfill what I finished for that month because I do have that from my Google Sheet, but I'm not going to go in and probably two-way link everything unless I have some of the dates, which I do have for my books. I just don't have it for my television shows, so I might go back and fill that in. So this is acting like my stats page for monthly, essentially. Years is pretty straightforward. The only thing I have is dropped is a year for me because I like to mark if I've dropped a piece of media or I have not finished it. And I also probably have a year called unknown. And this is so when I do my backlog of books and television shows that I watched when I was younger and I don't know exactly what year I finished it, but I know I completed it, I can just use unknown or like NA or something like that instead, so I can still have that all in one place. And then places is also pretty straightforward. One of the reasons I do places is, so I can click on something like Thailand and I can see all my television stores. But I also can be more specific. If I want to see what's just in this city in Japan, I know that this Astora was based there. Same thing. This Asadora was based in Osaka. So as I put in more media, obviously this will be more filled in, but it's just so I know, oh, I'm interested in the city, what was based there, and things like that. Same thing for books. Egypt, I have 2 books that have been set there. Oh, I can go do that. And this is also going to help me because I am doing a read around the world challenge. So this is going to help me keep track of where I'm at with that as well. I was thinking just recently, not recently, like literally yesterday, about how I should add pages for a couple of the reading challenges I'm doing and keep track of it there as well because I do physically track it, but I forgot to update it. And I track it on Storygraph, but I think having it here as well would be very helpful. So you may be wondering, oh, you haven't talked about any of your charts. So that is the lovely, beautiful, wonderful grouping feature in Capacities is how I'm fulfilling my desire for charts without paying for anything because obviously Google Sheets is free. I wanted a free experience. If you pay for Capacities, I totally understand why. The formula thing might be a deal breaker for me down the road. But for right now, I am just doing everything free. So if you do group by, you can go in and create a grouping size. So here is my completed versus my watching. Oops, gotta remove that. Oh, that shouldn't even be in here. Oh, I forgot to change it here. This is why you look, guys, so you can see what you got. And it will update in a second, my on hold and what I dropped and so on. And you could just go through and change it to what you want. So for example, if I wanted to see by genre, give it a second, it will load, and now I can see what television show is also falling into that genre. I will say that's the one thing Google Sheet lacked is Google Sheet does well for just creating numbers, but not necessarily telling you what is attached to numbers. I've tried so many queries to do that, and it never really worked out the way I wanted to. So this, for me personally, is a big improvement. And then same thing, like I had a platform chart, I can still create the same chart. There we go. I can now create the same platform chart, and so on and so forth. Obviously you saw I had a lot of charts. I had airing seasons as a chart just to see what I watched, a show that came out in winter, and so on and so forth. So that's how you can accomplish kind of your charts, getting away things like getting around some of those things. And you can do this across all of your content. So you can group series. That's what I have right now. I have this on a sort view like that. I can group books the same way. I can go through and decide what I want to group by. So that's how I'm kind of fulfilling my desire for charts without actually having charts. I know you can make charts in capacities. I just couldn't. It's very manual, and it's not my vibe. That's like, if you noticed, I don't like really manual besides the actual data entry element. I don't mind that being manual, but everything else I want to be automated as much as possible. So I did think it would be interesting to see a little bit of what I do in action from my backlog of entering information. Essentially what I do is I get by year. So I've taken all of 2023, put it in my Sublime text editor, and I just go through, put on like a Critical Role episode or like podcast episode, and I just go through and copy everything over. The only thing I don't have right away is the poster. I wait and do that at a second time. So yeah, I'm just gonna stop talking and show you what I do. So that is basically what I do when I add any media in. Again, I'm mostly just going through my backlog right now, so it's not super exciting. It's all information I already have, which does make it go a lot faster, obviously, versus something brand new. So that is basically how I digital garden in capacities when you're just doing it for one specific thing, such as media tracking. I would love to know what your ideas on how you use capacities. If you have any ideas to help me out, please leave them down below. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!